Okay, so this is the fourth period video. I'll do the evens on the review. Number 2, again, the odd video is posted elsewhere if you're looking for those. Number 2, find dy dx if, excuse me, if xy equals tangent of y. Back to Julius's question. Excuse me, thank you. The question was, are there going to be review questions on the test? An example of a review question would be, I don't know, what's the derivative of tangent? Well, that's sort of built in. A review question would be, do you know how to do the product rule? Well, there it is as well. So it's review, but it's review because we just keep building. In fact, more so this unit than most, because we didn't learn any new derivative rules this time. So in some ways, it's all review, because all the rules are rules that we've tested before. Now we're just combining the old rules with things like implicit, which is what this is going to be. Okay, so xy equals tangent of y. So what's it going to take on the left-hand side here? What rule am I thinking about first? Product rule. So that would be the first times the derivative of the second. It feels like most of y'all have switched to y prime because it's a lot easier to write, which is okay. Plus the second times the derivative of the first, y times 1. Okay, now let's get tricky here. I'll put Lauren on the spot because I have full faith and confidence. Lauren, what's the derivative of tangent of y? Perfect. Secant squared y times y prime. Right? Not secant squared of y prime. That would be eating the Tootsie Roll Pop all at once. Like one step at a time. Secant squared of y times y prime. Okay, here's a good example of if you make it this far, if I see that on your paper, but then you circle the wrong thing, you're going to lose 3 points instead of 5 points. Because the calculus is over. Now it's algebra time. So let's see, how do I want to do this? I guess the easiest way would be to move this guy to the other side. So y equals y prime. I'm going to do 2 steps at once. I'm going to move it over and then factor out the y prime. Secant squared y minus x. And then I'll divide by all of that. So y prime equals y over secant squared y minus x. Oh goodness, those all look similar. I better be careful here. It looks like B. D has a plus sign, that's out. A has a negative sign out front, so that wouldn't be right. And C switches the order, so that wouldn't be right. So yes, it's B. Number 4. Oh, the ladder problems. A 13-foot ladder is leaning against the building. The top of the ladder is sliding down the building. 13-foot ladder. Okay, the length of the ladder is not changing, so I can label that 13. Sliding down the building at a constant rate of 5 feet per minute. I don't have anything labeled yet, so I'm just going to say that's 5 feet per minute, but I don't know. I don't have a variable for that, a or x or y or whatever we want to call it. At what rate, in radians per minute, is the angle between the ladder and the ground changing? Okay, the angle between the ladder and the ground, that would be this one. So what does that statement tell me I'm trying to find? I mean, I know I'm trying to find at what rate in radians per minute the angles, whatever, but like, turn it into a math symbol. What am I trying to find? d theta dt. Good. How is the angle changing? Find d theta dt when the base of the ladder is 7 feet from the building. So when something is 7. I guess I need to put some labels on this thing. You got a preference?
X goes on the bottom.
Okay. So X on the bottom, and probably that for Y. So there's probably two choices. You could go X and Y, where X is the left, right, Y is the top, down. Some people would do A and B because they're used to A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Either way is fine. If you pick Y, what does that mean 5 feet per minute is? What's equal to 5 feet per minute in terms of my variables? dy dt. That's how Y is changing. Sort of. Why did I say sort of? It's negative. Y is shrinking, so dy dt is getting smaller. Well, Y is getting smaller, so dy dt is negative. Sometimes that won't matter, like in the end, like you look at your answer choices and they're all negative, so it might have been okay if you'd left that out, you'd have figured it out later. Okay, so I've got theta and y. Yeah, x is labeled, and when x is 7, but that's not really anything I know or I'm trying to find, so I need to use an equation that has y and 13 in it, or excuse me, y and theta in it. 13 might be in it too, but so which of my trig ratios would have y and 13 in it? Sine. Sine of theta equals opposite over hypotenuse. Oh, I guess you could do cosecant if you really wanted to confuse yourself, right? Because cosecant would be 13 over y, and then you'd have a harder derivative and a quotient rule. So, yeah, no thanks. It would work. It would just be really ugly. Sine theta equals y over 13. Okay, so that's true, but the reason I wrote that is because I want d theta dt to show up. So I think I want to take a derivative of both sides, Naomi. So, Naomi, how about the left-hand side? What's the derivative of sine of theta with respect to t?
Cosine theta d theta dt.
Good. Cosine theta d theta dt. Last period, they left off the d theta dt, whoever I called them. Yeah, terrible. Jessica, how about the derivative of the other side? Good. 1/13 dy. Okay, find d theta dt. That's what we're going for. So I need to move that cosine to the other side. So d theta dt. I think I'm just going to kind of leave it all written out like this. It's a free response question, so that means I can safe stop this thing whenever I get stuff plugged in. 1 over cosine. Some people are going to leave that because they don't want to mess with the reciprocal of cosine. But what's the reciprocal of cosine? Who's its flip partner? Secant. So I could replace all of this with secant, but then you're messing with secant. So, your choice. So 1/13 dy dt is -5. Cosine of theta. Oh, this is not multiple choice. I have to clean this up. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. But, oh, they gave me adjacent. That was nice of them. Adjacent is 7. Okay, that looks weird. Maybe I should have flipped it. I'll flip it now. Set 1 over 7/13 is the same thing as 13 over 7. Which is the secant of the theta, but whatever. We ended up flipping it. 13s cancel. -5/7. Sometimes I'm worried about negatives, but all my answer choices were negative, so I'm not worried about it. Does it make sense, though, that d theta dt is negative? Why does it make sense that d theta dt is negative? Because it's decreasing, right? And a moment later, it's like the ladder's like that, and theta has gotten smaller. So d theta dt is negative. That makes sense. All right. Number 6. We'll come back and do 5 after the video's over. Number 6. X squared plus y squared equals 25. What is the second derivative? Okay. Again, there is no shortcut to the second derivative. You have to find the first derivative, maybe do some algebra tricks, and then do the second derivative. So to get the first derivative, I need to take the derivative of all of those pieces. Find 3 people who are here. Zainab, how about the derivative of x squared? 2x. Angelina, the derivative of y squared? Good. 2y prime. And Marie, the derivative of 25? 0. I keep asking because you know it's 0, but man, that's the common mistake, is to get all the hard stuff right and then forget that the derivative of a constant is 0. Okay, so let's solve for y prime. So that would be negative x over y. Move the 2x over and then divide by 2y. Now I got to do a second derivative. What's it going to take on the left-hand side? Is easy. That's going to be y double prime. What about the right-hand side? What are we going to have to do there? Quotient rule. And quotient rule, I'm really hesitant to do the quotient rule in place in my head, so I'm going to write out the pieces here. It's not really that hard, but just to be extra careful. Owen, if f is negative x, what is f prime? Negative 1. Naomi, if g is y, what's g prime? Yes. Need more confidence in that answer, but yes. Y prime. Now I'm ready to put all the pieces together. So, as always, you got to keep the gf first to make things work out for you. Gf prime would be negative y minus fg prime. Minus negative is going to turn into plus. And then x y prime. And then all of that is over y squared. Yes. What is the value? Okay. I'm plugging in 4 3s, so I don't really have to worry about algebra simplification stuff. I can just plug in 4 3 right now. I mean, I was thinking this is one of those where if it didn't have the point, I think you would have to use x squared plus y squared equals 25, and it probably plugs in somewhere. Does that sound familiar? But I don't have to do that for this one. I can start plugging things in. The y value is 3. The x value is 4. I don't know y prime yet, so we'll hold off on that one. And then 3 squared is 9. But I do know y prime. It's negative x over y, so negative 4/3. So negative 3 plus 4 times negative 4/3, all over 9. That would be a safe stop. If I've made it this far, that's a safe stop. But obviously I've got to make it match one of those guys. So I think I would multiply the top and bottom by 3 to make those 3's cancel. I also see some answer choices with 27 in the bottom, so I feel like I'm on the right track here. Negative 9 minus 16 over 27. So negative 25 over 27. I'm just nervous because I think this on the test you have to, it doesn't give you a point, so you'd have to plug in negative x over y for y prime, and then do the algebra. You'd have to do the algebra with the letters rather than the algebra with the numbers. Number 8. A cylindrical tank. Okay, it's not a conical tank. That's number 9. A cylindrical tank, which, well, that's kind of ugly, but we like cylinders better than cones because why do we like cylinders better than cones? Especially from a calculus perspective. Oh, well, they both have two variables, r and h, but the radius isn't changing. For a cylinder, the r is constant, so I don't have to worry about like dr dt, or if I do, dr dt is 0 because it's not changing. So whatever's going on in here, I'm sure there's some liquid that we're filling up or draining out, but the r isn't changing, so that makes life a little bit easier. Okay, a cylindrical tank is being filled with water at a constant rate of 4 cubic meters per hour. The tank has a circumference of 20 meters. Oh, here they go again with not telling me the radius, but giving me enough information to find the radius. And a height of 40, although let's be careful because the height of the water is changing. The volume of the cylinder is pi r squared h. Okay. What is the volume of the water when the water is 25 meters deep? Okay. Indicate units of measure. Volume of water. What is my units going to be for this one? Let's answer that now. If I'm trying to find volume, it's going to be meters cubed. What kind of derivatives are involved in part A? Trick question. What kind of derivatives are involved in part A? None. Because nothing is changing. It just says how deep is the water. Or, I mean, how much water is there? So pi r squared h. R. Oh, I need r. H is 25. Alright, the circumference is 20. The circumference is 2 pi r. So that means r is 10 over pi. That's kind of an annoying radius to have. Oh, but this is a free response question, so I am done. That's an ugly number, but pi r squared h, we're good. I don't want to go further and mess that up. I want to say that's my answer. If you did want to go further, 10 squared is 100, times 25 is 2500. One of the pi's would reduce, and you'd have 2500 over pi. But why would you be doing all that? Like, say stop that thing. This is what I have to do when I'm making the key for the test, like a little behind the scenes look here. Like, I'll have to write that out because there will be a few people who do that. And then of the people who do that, that's fine, but there will be a few of those people who mess something up. And so they'll lose a couple points, and they should have just stopped there and gotten full points. Alright, part B. At what rate is the height changing when the water is 25 meters deep? Macy, what's this question asking me in like calculus words or variables more than English words? Of what? At what rate is the height changing? Rate means there's something changing with respect to time. And what are we asking for? What's changing? I mean, lots of things are changing, but what's it asking me for? The height. So this is asking me for dH dt. So again, rate means you got a d dt, and then whatever's changing is the top right variable. That's not very mathy to say it that way, but dh dt. When h equals 25. So volume equals pi r squared h. Is this a product rule problem? Why not?
R is constant.
R is a constant. We like this. R is a constant. And maybe I should just plug it in right now because it's not changing. So I can plug in 10 over pi. I'm not going to plug in h is 25 because that's changing. It also means I wouldn't be able to take a derivative, right? If I got rid of the h, then I'd kind of be stuck. So dv dt is pi times 10 over pi squared dh dt. dv dt, did they tell me dv dt? Did they tell me dv dt? I'm trying to find dh dt. There it is in the equation, which means I better know what dv dt is. Did they give that to me somewhere? Yeah, that was the 4. Filled at a rate, and then meters are the units, meter cubed per hour, that's a hint. So dv dt is 4. I'm going with safe stop, but at some point it might be easier to square the 10 and the pi rather than messing with the safe stop stuff. Let's see, 100 over pi dh dt. So 4 pi over 100 is dh dt. Reduces, but we're beyond reducing. How about that? It didn't ask for units, but let's give them anyway. What would the units be for the rate the height is changing? Well, what's the units for h? Meters, and the units for time is hour, so meters per hour. Again, you can get units, you can get it the hard way, plugging in units and doing all the algebra on the units, or you can get it the easy way and just read what they're asking for and put the units on that. Okay, so that ends the evens. The odds are on the other video.